Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So if I got the video today, the most charts per minute you've ever seen anywhere in the universe. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Okay, so we're coming off a historic period of low volatility here for BTC. It's really only been this not volatile for 8 other periods throughout Bitcoin's 10-year history. This is the BLX from BNC, so it goes way back to 2010. And this is the B-band squeeze indicator. How this works is if price is consolidating above the 20 SMA, projects a bullish breakout. And if it consolidates below the 20 SMA, it projects a bearish breakout. So we were hovering back and forth here. I'll zoom in on this in a second, but the last time we were this tight was 2018, and we had Bitcoin Cash BSV Civil War, we had Tether Bitfinex issues, and we had legacy markets dumping. We don't have that now. We had the possibility for legacy markets dumping, didn't happen, hasn't happened yet anyway. And we have this altcoin DeFi lift that's rising all boats basically at the moment. So Bitcoin's going up, kicking and screaming whether it likes it or not. And if we look at just this B-band breakout over the past 50, 70 days, whatever this is, you can see this is what happens. It gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and then we get our decision. I didn't put volume on here, but you should always look at volume to make sure it's an on-volume breakout of the B-bands and it isn't a fake out. To me, this looks real enough. I don't know what John Bollinger has said yet on this, but I think this is real enough that it is a legitimate breakout to the upside. How this typically works is the decision is made here and up is the direction. Another way you can look at this is to triangle it out. Say, okay, another type of consolidation is just a triangular consolidation. And we're clearly above that at this moment. Yes, the odds of a fake out are higher before we break these highs. So until we break higher highs successively, you can say, okay, there's a slight chance we might fake out. There's a less chance we might fake out. There's a less chance we might fake out. There's a less chance. You know, it goes all the way up the ladder here. The target is probably 11.7 if you measure this out. You know, you can exclude the pole on the flag or pennant or whatever you want to call it, triangle. But 11.7 is probably the target here. If we look at the cloud, something I was super concerned with, we were hovering on, rolling over for weeks if we broke 9K, this edge to edge to the downside to 7. You know, without Ethereum, without DeFi, without alts popping off, I think that's where we were headed, honestly. That's where it looked like price wanted to go. A lot has changed over the past couple days in that the decision tree has shifted toward the bullish side, especially if we get this TK recross above cloud. The single most bullish continuation indicator in the cloud system. So you can't deny it. You can't look at any of these charts I'm about to show you and say, that's bearish, or I'm going to short this, or we're coming out of a consolidation to the upside, this isn't real. You just can't say that. You know, you can look at Alligator Fractal. This is another MA entry system. MAs are flipping bullish. We are breaking fractals to the upside. That says go long. We break the next fractal, go long. We break the next fractal, go long. So this is just how it works. Eventually you're going to see some pullback and we're going to break some more fractals. It's going to say go long, most likely. You know, you have your trend indecision. You have MAs scattered all over the place and boom, decision is made. If we look at the weekly alligator fractals, it's putting your stop loss at 8.8. It's putting your entry at 10.3. This is the super conservative, ultra high time frame plays. Historically, if you backtest this, most likely these are really, really strong entries, especially here. I mean, just looking at this, I don't look at the weekly fractal alligator too much, but looking how decisive this was throughout 2018, as far as telling you not to long here, the MAs are clearly bearish. Okay, if the MAs are bearish, you don't long anything. If the MAs are bullish, you don't short anything. That's how the system works. So right now it says look for longs, look to go long at 10.3. Super conservative, but the safe entry is 10.3. As crazy as that sounds. If we look at the 1050 EMAs, this is a low time frame, similar to Alligator, you know. Historically, if you backtest this is really good as well for trend pickup. Bullish on BTC, bullish on Ethereum, has been for a long time on ETH, since April. I'll talk about ETH more later. MACD is bullish. I'm not a massive fan of MACD, but just using it as an oscillator, you can see everything reset for BTC, ETH as well. You can see the peaks and troughs in MACD. You're getting these lower highs, higher lows, another visualization of the consolidation here, and we're breaking out of that now. If we look at the 50-200 on BTC, historically, what we've had over the past year is unusual in that most of the time, BTC is trending to the upside most of the time, but it does trend to the downside pretty well. So this gobbledygook nonsense is unusual. We are bullish here on the 50-200. But if this tells me anything, it's don't be on the wrong side of this trend when the decision is made, because it's relentless on either side. It's relentless. If we look at some exotic stuff like the 100 EMA and the 100 MA, okay, just pick something and look at it and you say, okay, if red is above yellow, we're bullish. Red is above yellow. It has been for a little while now. You know, it was touch and go here when we had the March 12th drop, but we're back above all of that. We are crossed bullish. What more can you say, right? If we look at the 2-year MA multiplier, we are out of the green zone, heading to the upside. The midline is at 13, 14, I don't know. And then the overbought territory is basically new all-time highs. This will move up as price moves up, similar to how it moved up here, but this is all bullish. It's hard to get bearish seeing any of this anymore. And we had our chance to break down, we didn't. Now I'm just looking at upside targets. I'm just looking for that bull territory at this point. One way to trade this, I mentioned this in the video yesterday, but you can DCA into a position in the green, and you can DCA out of a position in the red. Now you can curve fit this a little better probably to catch these highs and lows, but generally, if we're above the red line, we're overbought. Doesn't mean sell everything based on the settings I have here, but it says be careful, you know. Be careful going short, be careful going long. Obviously the upside was continue to be massive here. But you can curve fit this a little better. You can do 5x the 2-year MA, stuff like that. If we look at this log rainbow thing, we're back into that somehow. You know, arguably we just throw this away because we broke down. But if you're just looking for stuff, I'm just looking to be bearish, but I just can't find it, you know. And the midline here is around 30. Crazy to say that out loud. If we look at the yearly pitchfork, not yearly, but yearly pivots with pitchfork on the BLX specifically, this will look different depending on the exchange you use. But if we look at the BLX pitchfork and this yellow line, which is the midline, you know, if you've never seen a pitchfork, if you've been living under a rock, this is your first time seeing one of my videos. The pitchfork is a trend channel with specific rules. It's got 3 anchor points that need to touch price. It can't be free floating here. Otherwise, it's just a channel. This is a channel with specific rules. Okay, so anchor point, anchor point, anchor point. And since 2015, we have held above this, arguably. You know, you can add wings. You can say anything above the pitchfork is oversold territory, similar to the 2-year MA, where, yeah, this is, or sorry, overbought. I always mix those up. This is overbought, obviously, but it just kept going, you know. This was overbought and it pulled back to the median line. The fact that we're now at the median line breaking up tells me that there's a lot of upside to go still to get to that overbought territory. So 13 is the obvious target based on the early pivot. You know, 13 by October is completely reasonable at this point. Looking at CME futures, rollover dates, historically these have been important for volatility. A lot of us traders were concernicus leading into this rollover period because if we're not volatile until, you know, July 28th, then anything can happen, right? It's kind of a coin flip. But if we are picking up price leading into the rollover, I think that's generally more bullish. Hard to say. You know, usually if it's one of these whipsaws a few days before, which is still possible, but usually if it's one of those whipsaws, it's like the opposite direction. You know, if we whipsaw bullish, it's bearish. If we whipsaw bearish, it's bullish. So the markets may be waiting for this rollover to occur still for something to happen. But if we look at the volume on CME, it's really picked up. Open interest has as well over the past couple days here. So it's just hard to be bearish, I think, looking at that, you know. If we look at CME, this is actually CME premium versus spot. CME premiums are par right now. So again, this says we have room for upside. We have room for that premium expansion on futures on CME. Historically, you know, this isn't completely cut and dry as far as what to look for here, but if we're bullish, premium should be expanding. You know, as we get bearish, the premium contracts, and you see it better on the OKEX stuff. You can see premium expansion contraction. Things get crazy out of whack when we have just insane volatility. You know, that always happens. The fact that these aren't clean anymore means that my formula's messed up or futures have just been insane lately. If we zoom way out and look at what the premiums could get to when we're trending, you know, we're not even close to that, right? Like the weekly isn't even flipped bullish yet based on the formula here. So what you're looking for is a consistent premium on the weekly and the quarterly, which is this blue line, blue fill, and we're not even there yet. So again, plenty of room for expansion to the upside. If we look at the Bitfinex versus Coinbase premium, historically, if Coinbase is leading Bitfinex, we're bullish, and we're just about to flip Coinbase leading Bitfinex here. Again, I'm just looking for things to be bearish, right? What does the VIX look like? The VIX is trending below 30. It's trying to crush 30 right now to the downside. VIX wants to go to 0. It's just a volatility index, fear index of legacy markets. Things look bad in the US from the coronavirus perspective, obviously, but do the markets care? I don't know. VIX says markets don't care. You know, markets, legacy markets anyway. We've increasing the correlation between SPX and NASDAQ for BTC, as well as ETH, SPX and NASDAQ, correlation's increasing. So if VIX is trending down and markets, legacy markets don't die, you know, we should do well. So switching gears to ETH, on the 21st, I talked about two things, this inverted head and shoulders pattern and this cup and handle pattern. They had targets of 265 to 275 and 333 to 386 just based on measure move and 1618 fib. The good thing about these low time frame patterns is you get your answer really quick. You know, we got the answer on that inverted head and shoulders in like 12 hours later. You know, it was very quick. If we look at ETH on the cloud, it's been bullish since April. So nothing's changed there. It looks great on trend. 300 looks like a massive resistance based on yearly pivot, based on VPVR, and based on psychological support resist. It's just even round number. So it's definitely the area to watch going forward. Based on how frothy ETH has gotten, it may not be resistance. You know, it may just push through it. I don't think that's likely based on the resistance profile confluence here, especially this previous high. You know, it's got to break two highs. It's got to break the yearly pivot. But if it can break all that, just based on climbing this ladder, the next one is 450, something like that. If we look at the weekly ETH USD, this edge to edge, I've been talking about this for I don't know how long now, months. But the targets are 460, 740, something like that. You really want this TK cross to be confluent with direction here to be super confident. The issue with waiting is that by the time this cross is bullish, it may be too late. So, you know, maybe you stagger your entry, maybe you start buying if you haven't already, whatever. You know, it's your book, your trade decision. If we look at the 5200 on ETH, it's been bullish since April. ETH as well does not like to go sideways for very long. You know, it likes these hard trends up and down. So once the decision is made, watch out. Don't want to stand in front of that freight train. I'm watching these notional value for Bitfinex ETH longs, which are now at $510 million. So what this means is the value of the long side of the book on ETH is at an all-time high. It's important to watch this once a top is in, once we're close to a top, because the probability that this starts to decline as we reach a suspected top is extremely high because of just the value locked here. You know, how is this person or these people going to get out of a $510+ million position without selling into massive volume, right? Like it's going to be hard, especially on Bitfinex where volumes have been declining over the past year. So I'm watching this like a hawk on the way up here, because if this starts declining rapidly, we're probably topped. If we look at some exotic EMAs, MAs, crosses on ETH on the weekly, not a lot of data here for these high MAs, but again, we're bullish based on this random 100-100 cross. We're bullish based on the daily alligator fractal. Alligator is bullish, broke above successive fractals. All of this echoes the low time frame inverted head and shoulders. Just says the same thing over and over again. If we look at the weekly alligator fractal, it says your stop loss is at 216 and your go long level is at 253, which already happened. This week, the next go long level would be 300 break and then 360, 350, whatever that is. But we'll probably get more fractals here. The bottom line is clearly MAs are bullish. If we look at the yearly ETH MA multiplier, and you can multiply this by 5 instead of by 3. This is multiplied by 3 right now. So this is the yearly MA here, and then this is 3 times the yearly MA. Again, if we're looking for tops and bottoms here to the upside, the midline's 380, the top side's 575. This is going to move up as price moves up, just as it did here. And like I said, for BTC, you can adjust this accordingly. The idea is you're curve fitting these highs and lows to predict the next highs, the next lows. If we look at ETH BTC, the 2-day 5200, which hasn't been cross bullish since 2018, is about to cross bullish. It's above this key level that I've been talking about for weeks, months now. It's above the yearly pivot. It looks like it wants 035 pretty handedly. You know, it's just a rocket ship up right now. If we look at the weekly ETH BTC cloud, this is like a dream, okay? When you're talking about edge-to-edge trade, textbook. Look at this downside. Just absolute carnage, devastation, just demolished, right? For 2 years, absolutely wrecked. And what do we have now? We have a clear trend shift back into the cloud with a bullish TK cross. It's beautiful. I mean, I forget the guy on Twitter who sent me this. I don't ever look at the weekly cloud for ETH BTC, so thank you. Looks like it's headed to 05. Like honestly, if this plays out how it should, 05, 07, somewhere in there. And lastly, Stellar and Doge. Stellar 2-day looks great on the cloud. Looks like it wants 12 cents. I'm not just talking about this because I have some. I've been tracking this for months. And Doge, same thing. It's been a struggle once the TikTok Zoomers logged off. But we got some Elon tweets now and then, and it still looks good. I don't know if it looks as good. You know, it's a pretty clear denial at 40 sats here. But if you're in profit, I'm not going to sell. You know, we broke the B bands to the upside. So for me, I'm just going to hold this. You know, I might hold it to break even. That's fine. But the USD value is holding at least, so I'm not really concerned. All right, that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter, and happy trading.